Good evening from London. It's just a smidgen past 10 p.m. and it's Wicked Women. Here we are, and I have my ladies, which are my team, the Wicked team, waiting to go, and I'm going to bring them in straight in. And we look fabulous tonight, so brace yourself, guys. Brace yourself, ladies. Here is the lovely Carly and the lovely Val. How are you doing, team?
Well, I'm hot, but other than that, I'm good.
Oh, you're hot, baby. You're hot.
Well, it's about 100 degrees in here, but you know.
You are, Carly. How are you doing?
I am here, so I am wonderful now. Thank you.
We've got this kind of the whole heat thing going on because London's pretty warm tonight, and you guys are pretty warm as well right now, aren't you?
Yes.
What's the temperature over there?
I think here today it was 85.
And Val?
Honestly, I don't know. 85 now.
It's hot.
It's 85 now, but you can tell it's hot because my glasses are steaming it.
Yeah, it's getting there over here. We're starting to up. Hot flash.
Yes, but we're going to blame it on the weather.
I want to wish everybody a good Sunday evening or Sunday afternoon, and wherever you're watching us from, welcome to Wicked Women. We are the show that just puts the wicked into Sunday. We've been gone for a little while. We came back last week. Poor Val couldn't get on. Carly couldn't do it. But we're here. We're live. And whether you like it or not, we're coming to you with a really good subject tonight called Woman's Intuition, the Sixth Sense. And everybody remembers the movie The Sixth Sense with the little kid was like, I see dead people. And yes, that is it could be part of it. But actually, we're talking about a woman's intuition. And I'm sure the guys would just love to know how we know these things, how we get that sudden feeling of like, I just know. And so when I spoke to my lovely ladies this week, we were talking about our own situations where we know things, where we feel things. I know Val and I spoke a couple of times about it. And I brought up one of the most famous I could remember was Princess Diana, when they actually said, how did you know that he was having an affair with Camilla Parker Bowles? And she said, a woman's intuition is a really good one. So I'm going to come to lovely Val. Carly's like, what? She left me. I'm going to come to the lovely Val. And it's like, Val, you know, when we were looking at this, where does a woman's intuition come from?
Well, I think it can come from several different places. I think it's just ingrained. I think everyone has that, that ingrained intuition, gut feeling, so to speak. But I think with us being able to kind of know when our children are in danger or something's wrong with someone that, our spouse, our children, all this, it's subtle hints that we just kind of pick up because we know the regular.
Yeah.
And we can kind of we notice every little change. But we were talking earlier, and it's been proven that our children leave their DNA. Whether you miscarry, terminate the pregnancy or have the pregnancy, those children still leave their DNA with the mother after they're born. Mm. And it stays with us in our brains for years. So I think instinctually, that's the purpose of that, is so we can see when our children are in danger. We can feel it. And I think that's another reason. I mean, I know in my case, when I took my girls to get their vaccines or, checkups, and they had to get shots, I could literally feel their pain because, it hurt me as much as it did them. Mm-hmm. And I think that means that saying really comes to home when you realize that they left a part of themselves there. So we are connected in a DNA, I mean, down to the DNA way. We're connected to our children.
Carly, you're a mum. You'd obviously probably agree with that statement that you feel that connection. Can you say that you have that as well in other areas of your life?
Oh, definitely. Very much so. Because intuition, for me, they say it's controversy of where it actually comes from between our science and our history and where it actually could have came. And I think it's a combination of all three. But before I get to that, yes, I very much so. From our children to our relationships to our home atmosphere and protecting our home to being outside of the home, when we're by ourselves, watching our own selves, say you're grocery shopping, you're protecting your food. We may not be scavenging out in the wild like they used to back in the day. You're in a grocery store, but still, hey, protect your food, protect your home. You go to work, you have to protect your career. There are so many areas where we feel these intuitional feelings, and they come from three different spots, I think. From the evolution, from cultural ideas, and the historical status. I think the biggest for me is the evolution with the gut brain axis, the central nervous system and the enteric nervous system, combining those. That is where we get our intuition, I think, number one. Our brain, go ahead, Wendy.
No, it's a good point, because we have brain cells in our gut, right? So they work together. But with a gut instinct, when you say you just feel, is that coming from our brain, Carly, or is that coming from our essence, from our soul?
Well, Wendy, I think it can come from either both or one or the other. And that is where the question in there lies as to why do we question our own intuition? Well, sometimes we're getting intuitional feelings coming from our brain. Other times we're getting it coming from our gut. And what do we have in between that? Our heart.
Yes, very much so. I mean, science seemed, I was reading about a science experiment where they had, they studied 90,000 people. And they did it in, I think, in Cambridge, Australia, France, and they basically showed people's eyes. And they said they wanted to find out what the emotional state was behind the eyes, just by having a quick glance at it. So they showed all these different eyes and everything, and the women outperformed men every time. It was like, he's feeling this, they're feeling that. And so they were like, there is definitely, science is definitely, and this is by scientists obviously checking it out, women seem to have that, we can read emotions better, we can read body language better, we can feel. That's the thing, isn't it? We feel in our gut. And I think that's what Carly's saying, Val, is the fact that you can feel it in your gut when, when you're walking somewhere at night and you're on your own, you're already thinking, I'm going to get home. Well, not, in the old days before we went everywhere by car, but you used to walk home and, you've already got it dimmed into you. Look after yourself, keep an eye on everything, get home safe. And you're aware there's someone walking behind you. You can't hear them. You can't even see them, but there's somebody following you.
But I think that's the way humans are made. I think that instinct and that gut feeling is ingrained in our DNA. I mean, it's just the way we are, because back, thousands of years ago, we had to depend on that. We had to depend on our feelings, to know when danger was around, to react before something bad happened. So I think we were made the way humans were made. We were given those instincts, those, that intuition to know when our children are in danger, so we can help them to know when something's not right, you know,
Mm-hmm.
so we can avoid it or do something about it. I think of course, every part of your body is connected. That's why, you can't just feel it. You don't just know somebody's behind you. You can feel it. Your skin will, you can feel it, literally feel them back there without them touching you.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost, I feel like women may have a little higher form of that than men, because we, give birth. We have to protect the children. That's our, inevitably that's what we're here for. So we need maybe a little extra because of that.
Good point. I mean, obviously, like Carly brings up a good point, and I found something today which I was reading about, and it says, "Have you ever had a feeling about something that you just can't explain? Something was telling you in your gut which way to go, what's going on, but in a masculine-dominated society that we live in, how can you just make a feeling? How can you base a decision based on a feeling?" And that's where the heart, as you say, comes in, and it's like, are you driven by your heart, or are you driven by your head? But I always, when I do a reading, I always say to people, ignore this and ignore that, because they will confuse you. Listen to your gut instinct.
Mm-hmm.
It's wrong. You shouldn't ignore. And the more, if you ever notice, Carly, the more you ignore those feelings and that gut instinct, the louder it starts to scream.
Yes, the louder it starts to scream. It just keeps giving you all of these red flags. And when you're in, say, the best thing that you can give an example of is a relationship, is you get blinded by the love, and there's all these red flags coming up. That's our intuition telling us, and our gut and our body, and we're just like, oh, but I'm in love, and we just.
I think red flag is like, that's a good thing. Our intuition is, our body showing us red flags. That's the whole,
But the heart and the head can overrule that intuition, because I certainly have had experiences in my life where I did not listen to that voice in my head going, no, don't do this. You don't want to do this. And I did it, and I suffered the consequences of not doing it. And I think sometimes it can be scary listening to that inner voice as well, because it's making us having to perhaps look at something like I knew when I got married second time round, I knew there was something going on. I just couldn't find the evidence, and I kept, it kept driving me on. And they say, be careful, what you seek, because you might just find it. And I did. I found all the evidence that I needed to actually know. And it was, I remember being woken up one night and just hearing this, this voice going, get up, and wondering, what was going on, and feeling in my gut. So I think, Carly, if you had an experience that you can share with us where your intuition really kicked in.
Oh, goodness. My intuition, probably a very good experience would be with my little one. She is medically complex, so she has a lot of issues, from seizures to being G-tube fed to a fall risk. And I have always had intuitional feelings about her seizures. I will get feelings like days leading up to it, that in my gut I can just feel that something's not right. She might not even be showing signs yet, but I can feel it inside of me. And sure enough, Wendy, I will just be watching her like a hawk, and within 2 to 3 days she'll have a seizure. And typically I a lot of times will either get some type of intuitional feeling where I have been woken up in the middle of the night right before she's had a seizure. She's hooked up to a pulse ox machine at night, which monitors her oxygen and her heart rate to try to detect for seizures. But most of the times it's too late. The seizure's already been going on for several minutes before it actually picks up on that. So there's been literally almost every seizure she's had, I've caught it before the pulse ox machine. I've been woken up in the middle of the night. I sleep with her, just get it, and then boom, seizure. And that's probably my best and biggest one, because that's something that happens, at least once a month.
And it's like those when people have like emotional assistance dogs, and the dog warns them that a fit or something is about to happen, and they know, they just smell, they sense, and it sounds like that's
That
very
energy
similar.
changes.
Yes. They, with seizures, you get auras, is what it's called, and for each person, it's different. Sometimes one of my friends that has pretty severe epilepsy, she will get a weird sensation, and she'll start feeling weird, and she'll be able to communicate that with you actually, and say, I'm feeling weird right now. We'll stop everything. Sometimes she needs a rescue med, and those are the types of things that's why seizure dogs and animal assistant dogs service dogs can do things like that, because they are capable of picking up on that. And, some of it is from, like, say, diabetes. That's one where they can pick up on the changes in the blood sugar. But with seizures, they can detect them with their movements. And sometimes, like me, they can feel them before the seizure is even going to come. It's phenomenal. It really is.
Do you find that when you get it, you get that sick feeling of, oh my God, it's going to happen. I know it's going to happen.
Yeah, it is, because especially since this past fall, when I was unable to be on the show for a while, she had a really, really, really bad seizure. And it was one that was not stoppable without going to the hospital and getting a massive loading dose of a medication. And so, like, you just get that feeling, and it's like, oh no, like with that at least, is this going to be one of those ones? Are we going to have to go to the hospital? Is it going to be one that I can't stop from home? And so I, like, with my intuition with her, my sixth sense is just always buzzing, always.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an amazing gift, because it is a gift as well as a curse sometimes, but it is a gift. And I think that when I looked into, put these on because I just can't read without them. When we look at women's intuition, is an instinct for what others are feeling or thinking. Intuition is when, bring up my glasses, just completely. Intuition, what happens when the brain draws on past experiences and external cues, body language, facial expressions, to make a decision. This instinct happens so quickly that the reaction is almost unconscious. They don't know why women are more in touch with their intuition. But many believe that all of us have an intuitive side to them, but women seem to be better at reading non-verbal cues like facial expressions, body language, like I was saying, and we're more sensitive to emotions, and we can detect if there's something wrong with a person or situation. So there isn't exactly a male equivalent, actually, of female intuition, but men tend to call it a gut instinct or a feeling. And, Val, you and I probably know, we've had some lovely relationships in our times, and we've all had that feeling there's something going on. We know there's something going on behind our back. We just know it. They may not be showing it. We might not find any evidence.
They may lie about it.
Yeah, exactly. There's a gut feeling. And I always say, it's like, I can taste the energy. I can smell when the energy changes and taste it. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can, if you're around someone for any amount of time, you can tell the slightest change. And then, my ex-husband used to hate the fact that I would be able to tell if he took any pills or, what he did, how many, all this over the phone, because I knew the actions and the wording and all that was different. So I just knew, I knew what he was doing when he wasn't here. When he was supposed to be home and wasn't, you know, it's just like you know, you know, something's not right. And like
Yes,
you were saying, men, I think a lot of times police officers have that heightened intuition. They can be talking to someone, they just know they're not telling the truth, you know, or I don't know if Ken wants to tell us after or whatever. He had, you know, certain instances when he just felt like something was going to happen and then it did. So I think in certain jobs and certain things like that, that in people with those jobs are suited better because of their heightened intuition. You know, they have that extra, you know, ability to look 360 all the way around them instead of, you know,
I mean,
straight
how many times have we all gone against what our heart was telling us, or even, you know, what our head was, and then we find the universe kicks us in the ass for doing it? Maybe it was a relationship, like in my case, telling me to leave, but I chose to stay. Maybe it was a friendship, and you just know that you shouldn't be trusting this person because you can't put a feeling on it. They've been really lovely to you. And I have to say, there are friendships in my life that I have given more than one chance to.
Oh,
and I always had that voice in the back of my head, Carly, that said, you're an idiot, right? You know, this is going to go down exactly the same way that it went before. And it did. And it was like, my common sense was like, oh no, give it another go. Everyone deserves a second chance. My gut instinct, my instinct was actually saying, you know, don't. And it's like, I have this life where I'm like, I want to just get on a plane and leave. And it tells me every day, get on a plane and leave, get on a plane and leave, just get on a plane. And I think I must go through that, just that choice, that thing in my head and that gut feeling. And it pulls me. I feel pulled to get on that plane and go. But I haven't, and I'm still here because life has made it not very easy, and obviously finances and all that lot.
But if finances was no option and things like that, would you still feel reluctance?
I think because there are circumstances which would make it, excuse me, difficult, but I think ultimately I would do it, because unless my life went down a completely different path, which was mega happy and whatever in the UK, it would still be calling me to go there. And I think that's what I'm saying, is that is our soul. I've always believed our inner voice is our soul. And sometimes we listen to the voices of everyone else around us.
Yeah.
And we put our dreams on hold because they say one thing to you. Oh, what do you want to do that for? You want to stay here? Or, you know, that has happened to me so many times. And so what I end up saying, and I'm like, well, you know, maybe you're right. Maybe just another year, whatever. And I think in the end, my gut instinct must be sitting there going, really, Carly? Like, you know, it must be saying it to me. Really? Do you have that with you? Do you have that as well?
Yeah. There's a lot of things. I mean, which topic are we talking about right now,
in
Wendy?
life, in your life,
with the dreams, with the doing things, with the family. Okay,
all of it, babe, all of it,
all of it. Yeah, I mean, for me, like an example would be, dreams. For me, a dream was my profession. Oops, pardon me. My profession and career. My ultimate goal when I was younger was to do modeling. However, I didn't have the support that I needed, so I instead chose to go and get my education, because I wasn't just going to put myself out there trying to do modeling and not have a backup plan.
Right.
So instead, I put that on hold and I went to college instead, and I got my degrees and I had amazing, wonderful experiences, and I wouldn't change it for the world. Mm-hmm. Do I still want to do my original dream? Yeah. And do I want to still sometimes think, hey, maybe I can try? yeah, but have I? No.
Yeah.
Well, I think a lot of times you have to kind of discern what's, your gut feeling and what you're being pulled to do with what you just would like to do or what you want to do. I think they're two different feelings.
Yes.
I wanted to, I was kind of like Carly when I was young. I wanted to, there was many places that I wanted to go. And, I went to school, modeling school, but I didn't go forward with it. It was just something that I thought I wanted to do. But deep in my heart, all I really wanted to do, what was pulling me, was being a wife and mother. I mean, that's what was kind of holding me back, I think. More than pushing me, it was kind of holding me back from doing what I thought I wanted to do. It was kind of the opposite. It wasn't pulling me in a way. It was kind of holding me back from doing something, that I may have regretted.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
so I think it works both ways.
Logic has a place in everything we do. People say think logically, be realistic, and it does have its place in the world. But there is a stronger force that we have that can't be got rid by anything, and that is nature. And I think what we're saying is that women seem to be born with a intuition, a natural intuition given by source, or is it genetic from the ancestors? Is it from all the way back to our DNA, where we were the protectors and nurturers, of course. And your intuition as a woman, I think, is written into your soul. And it's given to you at birth. And you can't learn, you can't tell someone, this is how you listen to your gut instinct. You can't teach that in school. You can't you can actually enhance it by sitting and talking to like-minded people and sit in psychic development circle if you wanted to open it up like that. But it's very, very sacred. And some people will ridicule. They go, really? What, your gut instinct said it? And you're like, yeah, it did. And they laugh. They laugh at you. But I think it's like we're on a bridge or at a crossroads in our life. Do I leave my marriage? Do I stay in it? And your head says to you, oh my God, blah, blah, blah. Your heart's saying something else. And then you've got that inner voice that says, and that's the one I don't think we listen to enough.
Right.
We don't listen to it. We ignore it because we go, well, there's the children, there's money, there's circumstances. That's the logical side of it. If I leave or, I love them, there's the heart, there's the emotional side of things. What if we tapped more into source and actually tapped and enhance that feeling, Carly? Like, do you feel that we could make it even more powerful, our gut instinct, than we already do?
Oh, most definitely, Wendy. Definitely. It's very easily done by tapping into source, by getting connected, by getting yourself centered, by grounding, by connecting with crystals, by doing so many things that can enhance it. And actually, you may think that you can't teach intuition, but I've learned in trying to teach my special needs daughter, because she's intellectually disabled, I'm having to teach her how to listen to her own body, which is, in a sense, her own intuition. So it actually can be taught in some ways.
Yes.
Not always, but like I'm teaching my daughter now how to listen to her body, for example. It's not necessarily intuition, but it goes around with the gut-brain axis, is our nutrition and what we eat. Food is literally medicine.
Mm-hmm.
It literally is. So when we're intaking foods in our body, and say you start getting indigestion, bloating, gas, whatever, after eating it, after taking a drink of something, those are indicative signs of your gut telling you, hey, I don't tolerate this food or this drink. Do not consume me anymore. But do we listen to it?
No.
Most people don't. But if you would actually stop, because I have to do the autoimmune protocol lifestyle to be able to try and maintain my chronic illnesses and autoimmune diseases, which means I had to eliminate like every possible food, basically, Wendy and Val. Like, I can eat chicken and turkey and some fruit and some veggies, and that's it. That's it. I can't eat anything else. I can't eat nuts. I can't eat like so many things that even our bodies should be okay with. My body is not okay with. And I had to learn that by eliminating these foods to be able to actually listen to your gut, because we've all just been eating processed foods, garbage, junk, sugar. All that's doing is making our gut inflamed. And if you're making your gut inflamed, what are you also going to be doing? The gut-brain axis. They're connected with nerves all the way. So if you're inflaming your gut, guess what? You're inflaming your brain.
100%. I mean, nowadays, like, I think people are really starting to realize the connection between the gut and the brain, and the fact that they go together. As you say, you've got brain cells there, and it's like, if you've got inflammation, you find your anxiety is stronger, your panic attacks, you know, you wake up feeling the adrenaline rush through you as well. But I also think as well, with our bodies, we don't treat them as the temples that we should do, that's for sure. And sometimes financially we can't, or because we can't always, you know, buy the stuff that we really want to, or the vitamins. But I think, Val, do you think that a woman's intuition is different to a woman's instinct?
I don't necessarily think that they're one and the same, but I think they're connected. I think they work together. I think intuition is kind of more situation driven, and instinct is more just all the time. You know, it's doing things that, you know, just come natural, just in everyday things. But intuition is kind of more for, I think it's made or imprinted in us more for our safety. You know, I feel like instinct is more kind of how to do things. We already know how to do things. You know, babies, when you put them in a bath or in a pool, they instinctively know how to hold their breath.
But then we question where some women, we actually go, where was their natural instinct? Why didn't it kick in? Because they know that on a biological level, women have increased. Men aren't going to like this. We're not trying to be funny, but it's actually been shown that women actually have increased brain activity and a greater blood flow in areas of the brain that control memory and emotion, which could explain why women have more intuition more than men. And there's a reason that, you know, and that's the thing. Like, let's look at primal DNA, etc., and all that side of things, nature. But what about from a spiritual point of view? Like, where do we get this gift? I mean, are we saying it's just scientific, that it's just biological, or are we saying that actually it is a gift? And why? And this is, you know, is a question for both of you, because I've thought about this one too. Why do women have it more than men? Carly.
Well, Wendy, let's talk about that. I will say on what you were just saying that it is proven by brain MRI that women do have more neural connections than men do. That is a scientifically proven fact by an MRI. You can't deny that. And in that makes women's brains more efficient and helps us with interpreting one's social surroundings. But wait. The men are going to like this. Wait. The male brain is neurologically wired to be more logical and more effective at linking perception with action. And because of that actually helps men be more intuitive.
There we
How
go.
about them apples?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Are they using it?
From my point, my beliefs, God made us that way for a reason. And I think women have more because of the fact that we, carry the children, give birth, and then are responsible for those children. So I think that's why ours is heightened.
Well,
I don't think it's necessarily more than men. I think it's different. Ours is more, like you said, when we have trauma, it stays with us so much longer because it's stored in that, that memory, and that that emotional trauma or physical trauma stays with us longer. And I think it's why it's so hard to get over it. So much harder. Excuse me. Words are hard. To get over things like that, because it stays so vivid in our memories. And I think men have their intuition is just as high. It's just different. They are kind of programmed to go out, work, and provide for the family, and their protection is the family. It's everything. But ours is kind of more towards the children. The men, it's like they're protecting us. We don't have to protect them, so our focus is on the children.
I mean, rather, you see women security guards, a lot more women bouncers, or coolers, I believe you guys call them. We call them bouncers over here.
What'd you call it?
We call them bouncers.
No, what was the other word you said?
Coolers?
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 Yeah.
Oh, bouncers.
You call them bouncers? Okay,
I've not heard the second word.
But it's like, women are very good at weighing up a situation and looking at it, and they're feeling, before, it's almost like you walk into a room and you get that funny feeling of like, something's happened here. There's something you're not telling me. I'm feeling it. Women seem to be more good for surveying an environment and looking for what's been going on. And women apparently feel less safe every day, apparently, in comparison to men, with almost half saying they always feel unsafe when walking down an alleyway or when walking alone at night. In contrast, only 11 and 13% of men actually felt the same. And yet, when women feel vulnerable, their instinct, their intuition kicks in, and they let their instincts take over. So they become to protect themselves, because it isn't always about taking care of the children. If you don't have children, it's about taking care of yourself. And have you ever noticed why women seem, not all, because there are some guys as well as good at this, but there are some women who are better at picking up on people's emotions. We can sniff it. We can know. And I think human beings can sometimes be unreadable. We can actually put a very good wall and a mask up, and people cannot you cannot see behind it. So is it because we have this natural ability, this natural instinct, this natural nature, this natural intuition? When was there a time that we did ignore it, we didn't listen to it, and we paid for it? Val, can you show me a time that your gut was telling you one thing and you did the other?
I've always tried to listen to it. But, like you said, in relationships, when you go back 100 times thinking it's going to be different and your gut's telling you stupid, it's going to be the same thing, but you do it anyway. That's the biggest one. I think, for me, because honestly, I went back way too many times knowing the outcome, thinking foolishly that I would be able to change that outcome, knowing better, but going anyway. And
Yeah.
honestly, the last time I did go back just for the purpose of proving my gut right. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm just going to see if what I'm thinking is right. And it had been right every time, so I don't know why. But mentally, I went in knowing why I was there, just to prove my point to myself. So I do my best to listen to my gut. I don't always, but that was probably the biggest in relationships, is probably my biggest downfall.
I mean, they say that there are some people that before they got on the planes that sadly went into the Twin Towers had a feeling that they shouldn't get on it, and they didn't do it. And I for instance, I just passed my driving test, and I had the car, and you know, it's all a novelty. And my mum was like, I was living at home back then, and my mum was like, we just need something from the shop. So I said, oh, I'll go and get it. And this voice said to me, don't do it. Don't do it. And I was like, no, I'm fine. Ignored it. Don't do it. And I could feel something pressing on me saying, just don't do this. And I drove down the road, and I turned left, and a car went straight into me and pushed my car into railings. Had I listened, that wouldn't have happened to me. And that's just one incident in my life. You know, as I said, when I was married, I knew, I just knew, and I didn't ignore it. And you know what? You go on a date with someone, you meet someone, you go on a date with them, and you think, oh, well, you know, it's first impressions and everything. But there's this voice inside you going, no, or you know, there's more to it. And scientists seem to think that women's intuition is a product of evolution, as females with a strong ability to understand and predict the needs of their offspring and mates makes us thrive over females with less inferior senses, because there are some women that don't have that strong instinct. And if you think about it, many years ago, women were taught to be seen and not heard. We were look pretty, say nothing, stand in the corner, you know your worth.
But still, women, I think we're still with they still had it. They were just taught not to listen to it.
And I think that's where the deep sense of observation in women came, because they had to observe, they had to use that feeling and being hypersensitive, because they were not allowed to actually say, well, you know. And I think women in general can be more intuitive, empathic, perhaps control themselves a bit better, although there are some ladies out there that will prove us wrong, because we have this increased blood flow in our brain. And also, Carly, we're better at showing our emotions through our facial expressions. I mean, you meet a guy and they say, oh, you know, he had his poker face on. Do you know what I mean? Like, women, do we tend to hide that? Do we tend to hide our emotions now? Or are we showing it through our eyes?
I can't hide mine. I've tried.
What do you think, Carly?
Yeah, it's a vital necessity. So, of course.
You see, I find that, you know, when you meet someone and they're smiling at you and you just think, you're trying to read behind the lines, you're trying to feel that essence, you're trying to feel that connection. And that's when this starts to screw up, because you're like, oh yeah, but what if this, what if that? So you're on a date, you've met this really nice guy, everything's going really well, your gut feeling's going, oh, and then someone might say something or do something, and then this starts to kick in. And I know so many times in my life that's happened to me, and I will self-sabotage, and I will just walk away, end it, or whatever. And I could be absolutely wrong, but I've done it. And I think also as well in my life, you get an urge sometimes to just ring someone and see how they are. There's a voice in your head that says, pick up the phone, or a gut feeling that they're
I've done it many times.
There's a gut feeling. You feel like, I just don't know why, but I've got to pick the phone up. And I know Pete, in certainly with in counseling, I heard a lot of stories where people would say, I was just about to do something really stupid, and somebody called me and they said, I had this urge to call you. And I tell you an instinct, and this is actually I've just come to mind. My best friend, she lives in Okotoks in Alberta. And a couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, or around that time, it was the year of COVID, she had a car accident. She was involved in a car accident. And she fell asleep at the wheel just for a second, and the car overturned, and she's a miracle. She's here. It was 3 o'clock in the morning, my time, 3 o'clock in my time, and something said to me at that time, call her. I don't know where it came from, whatever, but it was like, call her. I just I'd woken up and something said to me, just call her. I don't know why. And the time I called her, she just had the accident, and she was unconscious underneath, and obviously her phone was somewhere. And it was so weird that I'd woken up, and to wake up in the middle of the night and to actually go, I've got to call her. And that's because I think obviously there's a connection between us that you cannot see, but you can feel. It's fluid. But also, is that my instinct that I'm picking up? Maybe there was an unconscious thing sent from her and I picked it up. I don't know. And she said that her mum was there. Her mum, bless her heart, is no longer with us, but her mum, she said her mum was there, the night of the accident, and it's like, it's not your time. You're going back. And they said she should be dead. She should be dead. And when you see the car and you saw what happened to it, you actually realize that, she should be dead. And she ended up having, surgery. And it was really weird because she rang me the next day and said, and obviously I saw her in hospital. She was a mess. And she said, I realized you rang me at the same time I had the accident. And I was like, wow. So I think that in that natural intuition, that connection, because I think if we have a connection with someone as well, whether it's a child, whether it's a partner, family, or a friend, my connection to her was obviously so strong. Something woke me up and said, call her.
Well, I think that part is the heart. That, it's not necessarily your brain or your gut. I think that when you have love for someone else, love for your friend that's so strong, you can feel it. I've had people that I haven't talked to in years. They'll pop in my head and I'll feel the need to call them or message them, and they'll say, yeah, I was just getting ready to message you, so it's kind of like, I don't want to say necessarily intuition, as far as, environment or anything like that. I think that part comes on the spiritual level.
Mm-hmm.
It's not necessarily what we've been through or anything like that. I think it's just that connection we have, that thread that connects us to the people we love.
And also there could be that point. I mean, she fell asleep at the wheel. Apparently, I think she didn't wake up at all, even when by the time the car hit the wall. She was unconscious. So, I mean, she was very, very lucky. And she had flip-flops on as well, which, amazing. That's what gave her the damage to her foot and her ankle. For me, it was like a feeling of, oh my God, I could have rung my friend and she could have gone, she could have gone at that moment. And I think that's when, when we do get something like that, we need to listen to it and go, I should do this. I need to stop ignoring my gut instinct and my
That's what I've tried to start doing.
yeah.
You know, if I feel the need to do something, you know, I feel that urge, that, I don't know, I don't want to call it a pull, but it's that in, you know, I guess that gut feeling. It's more than that, though. It's kind of, you know, almost like you need to do it right now. That kind of urgency.
Holly,
I try to do it.
do you have a feeling where you meet someone and your gut instinct says, or your intuition, let's use the word intuition, there's something about this person and you've been proved right about them, that you were, and no one believed what you were saying about them?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Wendy. I generally, for the most case, am able to read people fairly well and read their nonverbal communications and read what they're saying through their eyes. Or even, depending on how close we are, pick up on subtle changes in their text messages. There are so many cues and so many things that I can get indicative signs from somebody as to whether they're lying, whether they're not a good person, whether their intentions are not pure. Yeah, absolutely. And then, you know, from all those signs to then, of course, the number one is feeling it in your gut. But what I wanted to start to say when you guys were talking about all of that is I think it also comes down to when we were talking about the spiritual side of it.
Bring your
You know,
pods in, babe, because it's slightly coming back and forth.
oh, sorry, they must be
That's
popping
better.
in.
That's better. Go for it.
Oh, one was like half out. So sorry.
That's okay.
And I think it's when it comes from our soul. It's
Mm.
coming from our soul. It's something so much deeper that we're feeling, some signs that we're getting from source, even through our soul. And if we would all actually listen to that and be more connected and do things like meditation and centering yourself and groundwork and those type of spiritual foundations, you can find that you can actually enhance your own intuition or at least be able to recognize it more. Because that's another thing is most people, I can't say most people, a lot of people, they just, they're so trained to just go about their day and just not listen to themselves, you know, like just I gotta go do XYZ, and hey, their body's saying don't do this, but they're like, I gotta do it, so they just don't even pay attention to those cues. And if they would stop and step back and do things like those that I mentioned above, you could be able to learn how to read those things better. I think you can. I think it can be something learned. Like I said, I'm having to work on teaching it to my daughter because it's not something that's coming natural to her. Some things yes, but most things no.
Mm. Yeah, and it's also like, Val, I mean, if you had episodes, you probably have, where you're somewhere and it's like you like this voice says to you, don't go there, don't go down that road, or don't go there, just don't do it. And you get this, like the hairs on the back of your neck go up, and you're like, that's ridiculous. You know, I need to go down there. I need to go and do this. It's just my imagination playing up. Have you had that? Because I've had that, and it's like, I've actually done both. I've gone down and still carried on, and thankfully nothing happened. But I've also had the times where I've avoided it because it's been so strong.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all, you know, been at that point where we haven't listened to it and, you know, said to ourselves, man, I should have listened to my gut, you know, because it didn't turn out the way it should have. But, you know, most of the time I try to listen to it. Of course, there's been times when, you know, you think, it'll be okay. You know, I'll just, there's nothing going to happen. It'll be okay. This is crazy, you know. And you go and you do it anyway. And then you wake up the next morning and think, man, I should have listened to my gut. But,
Yeah.
you know, I think a lot of times our gut might tell us something because we've been there before. It may be the same thing that happened to us at a different time, and we're kind of remembering that. And I think it's kind of like, you remember what happened last time, so don't do it.
So that's almost like a bit of logic as well coming in, isn't it? I mean, it's like if, I imagine if Michael was here, he'd probably say, like when he was in the army, I'm sure he had episodes in the army of where his gut instinct said, no, don't go down here, do this or whatever. There's something there, there's someone there. And I know, in the services as well, I suppose, within the police force, and they just feel there's that sense of something there. So I think we've all got the ability to be empathic. And what we're saying is everybody has the option to be psychic and empathic. But for women in intuition, there obviously is a study that our brains are bigger in some ways. We use a totally different part as well sometimes, where we link in with the intuition side. And for instance, go on.
It is kind of psychic to a point, because you're reading the energy. Because the energy is what's telling you to do or not to do something. When the energy, you've been in a place where you're fine and then the energy just changes. Yes. Someone might walk through the door and the energy will shift. And that person's just not a very good person. So it is kind of a psychic type energy that you're picking up.
I think guys do have it. I mean, I know of a few gentlemen that have say they can smell and sense energy, and they can feel when the energy changes. And so I think some guys some guys use that side maybe more. And to give just a few hints here, it says when you listen to your intuition, you could find a moment of clarity that tells you exactly what your heart wants. And that's the point. Is our gut instinct listening to our heart, right? Because what does our gut instinct look like? Can we touch it? Is it palpable? Is it, what is it? What is it like? Is it some sort of fuzzy cloud? But your intuition will tell you where you're heading down the wrong path and show you where to go next. And you will feel and taste and feel the energy of other people. You will sense when maybe someone else is feeling bad, or something else as bad has happened. You might even feel physical ailments. A lot of people say with their gut instinct, they could feel somebody's physical ailments. You might have vivid dreams where, like you say, you wake up and your gut instinct says, you got to do this, you got to call this, you've got to act on it, which is a good one. And also sometimes I think when everything is going crazy around us, when everyone's going, there's loads of stress and everyone's going crazy, do you ever find that you feel calm in those situations? Because for some reason, there's a little voice saying, it's okay. This is, have you ever had, we've all had them. Of course we've had, but you know what I mean, Carly? It's like everyone is losing their head around you. Everyone's like, oh, he's going to be like this, he's going to be like that. And you're just like, it's going to be fine. I know it. I just feel it.
Yeah, that was a big one to be put on the spot with, but I guess I would say my best one with that would be when I was a 911 dispatcher for a big steel mill. I absolutely had to remain calm as the first responder, taking all of the calls that came in, from security to fire to steel to you name it. I dealt with it, and if you do not remain calm with that, the whole situation will fly off the handle.
Yeah.
That is my biggest example.
That's a good point. That's a good point, because you are in the services and you're expected to, and I can imagine there must be moments where you feel absolutely like, oh my God, right? But it's like, do you also find, Val, that sometimes you keep going back to the same thought and feeling over and over again because you're not listening to what you're trying to be told. You're like, oh my God, there it is again. And you're like, and it's the same with me. I have it all the time. And it's like, if only I could just make it happen. And I know lovely, I'm going to bring it up here. JP said, manifest destiny, Wendy. I'm a trying. But it's like, if you don't make a decision, your intuition will keep bugging you until you do, Val.
Well, is that, I thought about this a while ago. Do you think that, you know, that regret feeling that you get?
Yeah.
That's your intuition going, told you so?
Oh, good point.
You know, saying, you know, I told you not to do this. You did it anyway, or you didn't do it. So you get that feeling of regret.
Yeah, good point. And if you notice as well, like Carly, sometimes when you're not, when there's things you need to say, but you're not saying them, your throat will get sore. You'll get a sore throat. And it's, you know, do you have that as well?
Absolutely. It's your throat chakra being blocked because you're not listening to yourself and you're not speaking what you should be speaking.
Yeah.
If you're withholding those things that need to be said, you're going to feel it in all sorts of ways. And if people just keep ignoring our bodies when they're giving us these signals, this whole world is, you know, if it's at a loss, we have to listen to it. Our bodies are designed to tell us these things. You'll
They are.
feel
They're
whether,
like signals.
yeah, whether it's, you know, a scratch in your throat, or you feel like you have to clear your throat, or, you know, a frog in your throat, or literally a pain in your throat, or a sore throat. Like it can go from all of that through all of your chakras as well, not just your throat chakra.
Well,
Yeah, it can make us ill.
yeah. But if you think about it, how long do you think humans would have lasted? Sorry, I got hair in my mouth. Back when saber-toothed tigers and all that, how long do you think we would have lasted without those instincts? Without that intuition, without the instinctual tools we were given, you know, brain, gut, our entire bodies, you know, tell us, it had to tell them how to do things, you know, when not to do, you know, not to just go up to a mammoth because you're going to get killed.
I would certainly say that being a clairvoyant and empath, a lot of, when I've dated a few people, they don't like that because we sense things about them. Yeah. When they're telling us stuff, we know it's bullshit, and also we can feel it, and they're aware of that because, you know, you can just, you know, when someone, you're like, that's just complete rubbish that you've just told me, and you're like, yeah. And inside your gut instinct's going, no, it's not. And I also think as well that the universe will throw things our way and going, are you listening yet? Yeah. I'm trying to tell you for your body, because you're right, it's a telegraph pole. We are a telegraph pole. It's sending out signals, and if we're not listening, the universe keeps trying to send things to us and go, you know, it's like Val and I were talking the other day, like when we talk about, so using this as an example, we're talking about socks, and then we'll go on Facebook and Instagram and it'll all be about socks, you know, all the adverts, and it'd be like, it was listening to us. That's like the universe, it's listening to us, and it's trying to give us these messages to listen to. And also I think it's very divine as well. And I think it is a gift to feel that energy, to feel someone that, you know, something's going to happen. The energy's going to happen. I think that, is that divine? Is that like our guides and helpers telling us, or is that the divine? I mean, you know, you could say it's the same thing, but not really, because guides and helpers are one and the divine is direct from source. What do you think, Val?
Well, you know me well enough to know I think God made us that way. He made us that way for a reason. And, you know, I mean, it's kind of like, you know, he didn't just plop us down here and say, you know, you're on your own. he gave us the skills to, you know, gather food, protect ourselves. He gave us the skills to do everything that we needed to do. And he wired us so that, you know, one thing helps something else and it all works together for that, you know, protection, workers, hunters, gatherers, all that. It all works together. So he gave us both, men and women, different instinctual things. You know, our intuitions are different because they needed to be.
Carly, do you ever get deja vu?
Oh, yes, Wendy.
You get it a lot.
I wouldn't say a lot, but I would say I've had my fair share of it. And you know, it'll happen and it's like, I swear I've lived this situation already. I had this conversation with this person.
Yeah.
We've done this. We've been through XYZ already. Why are we doing this now? It's like I've been there. Yes. And were those signs from source of giving us intuitional foresights of what was to come? There's
Good
many
point.
things of what it could be, but I strongly believe in deja vu.
It's when you meet someone and you feel like you know them and you can't explain why they feel familiar. And I think sometimes the more we start to think of ourselves, good point, as Carly said earlier on, as a telegraph pole, where our brain and we have brain cells in our lungs, in our heart, in our stomach, you know, and other organs as well. We are so connected, and yet we choose to ignore what our body and our is trying to say to us. So it starts to manifest, as you say, with sore throats or feeling ill, inflammation. And some people say inflammation is just healing. Whole new topic there. But it's like with the gut instinct, you know, when you just know there's something going on with your body, there's just something, you know, and you tell the doctors and they just look at you and go, yeah. And you're like, but I know. And they look at you as if you're a nut job. But you actually know, because not just because you feel it, you know.
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to have one of those doctors that say, well, you know your body better than the doctors do, or better than anything else. So we'll try to find what's wrong, you know, because it's true. If you know, you can tell if something's off, you know, because you know how your body is 100% of the time.
Hmm.
So you can tell if something's off. You know, it's not necessarily, you know, instinctive, but that's more intuitive, I think.
I would like to think that our intuition has always been there right from the start of creation, and it's come through our ancestors who perhaps has passed down their memories and their and it's in our DNA. Because if you think about it, it's a crazy thing. Our grandmother carried us in her, because, you know, she had our mother, and then, and then our mother had us. So our grandmother actually covered us. So we have this massive connection of following in our ancestors. You know, some people say, oh, you're so much like your great granny or whatever, but I want to go back further than that. I want to go back to, like, if we go back to Stonehenge times and stuff like that, where women were, as you know, Carly said, the mums, you know, they were food, preparing the food, and that lot. The men were the hunters and the gatherers. It's like the intuition, I would like to think, has come along, you know, and as we go future in the world, I would imagine that intuition hopefully will grow stronger and isn't pushed down, because I think if we listen to it a lot more, we will actually do ourselves a lot of favor. I like the fact that it looks like Val's got a cat on her shoulder, but she actually hasn't.
I do. I do have a cat.
She looks like it's a parrot. It
I
actually
do
looks like
have a
it's a
cat. I
parrot.
told
I'm going to take us into the afterglow, but I want to.
I do want to read this first, if it's okay.
I'm not going to finish it. I'm just going to go into the afterglow because there are a couple of things I wanted to bring up. But go for it, Val. Bring it up, girl. Bring it up, girl.
In 44 BCE, Calpurnia, the wife of Julius Caesar, foresees her husband's assassination and begs him not to go to the Senate. Caesar doesn't listen. Several stab wounds and a few famous last words later, he's dead.
Wow.
Wow.
Moral of the story.
You know, Abraham Lincoln's wife didn't want him to go to the movie theater. He went anyway. Men, listen to your wives.
They should do, because we know. Okay, let's just go into afterglow and we'll be straight back. Carly and I are just rocking along to that music there. We don't often use the afterglow because what happens is we tend to go into a longer one. So I'm trying to bring that up. And what I was going to say is let's look about what we can do to actually heighten our intuition, because I think that we were so busy running around with a phone strapped to our head or cleaning the house or, taking care of the kiddies or whatever. What can we do, Carly, to actually heighten our intuition?
Well, for starters, listen to yourself, but that's a given. The
Yeah.
first thing that I would have to say is one thing that I'm connected with, and hey, to each their own, people might feel differently. It's not necessarily the one I want to say, but a rock crystal connects you
Yeah.
to your intuition. This is a rose quartz, but a rock crystal will connect you to that. And there are many other avenues that you guys can take with things that you can use to help enhance your intuition from that, to as well as, like I was saying, when it comes to just like the food, and just start with those simple basic things of listening to your body with food. That's like if you feel like you have no intuition and you don't know where to even begin, start with that, because if you're eating foods and your body's telling you, that's your body's, kind of secondary form of intuition, the ways of people that they can start paying attention to how their bodies are responding and listening to
Yeah.
those things. From that to the emotions to, like you said, when we start to get those feelings, when you get that saying, hey, don't go here. Sometimes you might have a doctor's appointment or a meeting and your body's just like, hey, don't go there. Sometimes you just got to reschedule, because I've had times where had I gone, the roads were black ice and I live in the middle of nowhere. It's an hour drive. Like there's no way I could have ever made it. And so there's many avenues that I think we could take to help enhance our intuition if we would just listen and take the right
Good
path.
point. I think you're right. Listening is we don't listen to that inner voice. We really, really don't. And I was saying this to Val at the beginning of the week. We want to press the red button, right? We want to press the red button. There's a big shiny red button in front of us, and we're like, I wonder what would happen if I just press that. And you got all this stuff going around going, but why would you want to do that? Don't do this. But then we press it. And I think also it's quite important to connect with your solar plexus, which is where all, right here, just here, this is where the area of your chest just below your rib cage, where we hold all our emotions, we store all our feelings, we store all our emotions, and that's where we get our feelings. And I've always said, when we get a row and we go like this and we put our our arms across it, because we're like protecting protecting ourselves. That would be the first thing. And ground yourself, try in the moment when everything's going crazy, try and ground yourself. I mean, I do things like imagining roots coming out on my feet, going down into the center of the earth and locking in. And also sometimes people wear different color clothes, believe it or not. They think if they wear blues or pinks or whatever, they feel it calms their energy. They feel they can link in a lot more. And there's a really good quote that was told to me years ago. Ask a question about somebody. So using Bob as an example, you're going on a date with Bob, using this as an example. Is Bob a good man? Is Bob going to be faithful? And listen to how your body responds to it. Like, what is your gut feeling? If you don't feel anything, that's okay. But if you do feel that feeling of like, you've got to listen, pay attention. Val, do you find that, you're on your own quite a bit? Do you find that your gut instinct doesn't talk to you when things are quiet, or do you think it's always there and it only comes out when we need to hear it?
I think it's always there. It's just kind of not always screaming at us. I think it's there for small things, like when I'm at home and I forget to do something outside and it's dark outside and I start to go and I think, I'll wait till in the morning.
There's a bear out
there. I better not. But then again, if I hear something, it kicks in and I think, okay, I need to go make sure all the doors are locked. So I think it's there in little things, not just, okay, you're in immediate danger and it's there. I think it kind of whispers sometimes to you. But like Rapid Dog said, common sense, I think, and intuition are he said cousins. I think they're more like siblings because I think they go hand in hand.
I mean, Carly comes up with a good point about listening to your body, and it's like your intuition tends to pull you towards whatever's in your best interest.
Right.
And so you feel more excited, anticipated, and feeling, happy, because gut feelings, they tend to make your body relax because the subconscious, I guess, knows that you're making the right choice for you. So it's when you can feel it because you're not making the right decision, and you go and you can carry on with that decision. Everything's good. Your body feels good. You feel calm. You feel happy. It's like, and separate fear from it. Like, so if you take anxiety away from it sometimes, and what am I frightened of? What is stopping and holding me back? In our intuition, I guess, Carly, could be a mentor, really, couldn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Look at it as a mentor, because that's what it's doing. It's trying to be right there alongside with you, telling you, hey, Wendy, hey, Carly, hey, Val, listen to me. Like, I'm telling you, from, like I said, what you're eating and drinking, to what you're saying, to what you're feeling, to all of those things. If we would just listen to ourselves, and we would just step back and get out of our phones and get into the real world, not into the phone world, we would be able to
good point.
pick up on
In our phones,
because
because that phone, in a way, is blocking our own natural stuff that's going on, because we're so looking into this that we're actually forgetting this. And also from source as well, they say that fear pushes you to hide or compromise yourself, but intuition does the opposite. So fear's like, oh no, I can't do this. No, I can't do this. Like my friend come up earlier on. I'm scared of deep water, terrified of it. Won't go on anything, boats, whatever, even bridges, scare the shit out of me. And so straight away I'm like, panic, fear. There's fear. So if we get a feeling like that, it's our a way of saying, I'm not doing this, I want to hide. But when we go, like, for instance, I want to go to Canada, I want to go out to America, my body's going, this is great, you should do this, let's book a ticket right now, it's feeling really good. That's the difference between, you know, the two. And I also think as well, if you want clarity, and I've always said this, go outside for a walk using just your feet, not your shoes. Touch base with Mother Earth. And it sounds really, airy fairy, but it's true. Like, ground yourself, because we are up, we're so up, what's going on in Facebook, Snapchat, who's talking to who now, what's happening in House of the Dragon or whatever. We're all doing this, but we're not reminding ourselves that we ourselves are we're from source, and we are a higher consciousness.
Our intuition is like our phones. Sorry, I'm getting real excited. Our intuition is like our phones sending us the stupid notifications from Snapchat and Facebook and all that. Listen to your body, people. When it's sending you those signals of your throat's feeling this way, your solar plexus is feeling that way, you're feeling that anxiety. If you're somebody that doesn't even have anxiety and all of a sudden you're having these feelings of doubt and fear and all of that, guess what? That's anxiety. That's your body telling you no. And if we would just listen to them, our body literally sends them. Our body is like a freaking iPhone or Android. Listen to those notifications it's sending you, people.
I've been so guilty of that myself. I've been so guilty of not listening. I do now, but there, and why am I suddenly, and I think, as you say, if more of us kept in touch with ourselves, and you go around people that make you happy and feel good, and you laugh and you have a great time, and then you go home to a situation that makes you completely miserable and very unhappy, and the energy is very, very different. And I think that is when you start feeling that energy more and more, and your intuition is saying you don't want to go home, you really don't want to be part of that, and you're like, well, how am I going to get out of it? And you have to look at your situation. It's not always easy to walk away from situations. It's not always easy to make that logical, heartfelt situation and choice. I hope tonight that we have at least started, or at least covered some areas of women intuition, because when I talked about it with you guys this week, I was like, there are so many red buttons that I want to press, or there are so many things I want to do, but my head is stopping me from doing it, and my life is also stopping it from me. So for me, it was very topical. And Val's always just very easygoing anyway with anything you talk about. And she's just like, well, and then when Carly and I talked about it, we talked about similar things as well. And I think a few people wanted us to touch on Wicked Women more psychic, witchy things as well, which we will do, because there's so much to look at. And one of them is obviously, which and we haven't forgotten it, the witchcraft one. And as Carly reminded me the other day, the battery operated boyfriends ones as well. We haven't forgotten.
Bob the Hummer.
That is going to be, I think we need
can't sing a lick, but he can hum his ass off.
It's going to be quite let me just bring up JP's comment, because he says, we haven't seen JP on the show for a while. JP, we've got withdrawals.
Hey, JP. I know he came to see me. You know that.
I think one big thing that should be covered is when intuition is wrong. Good. Let's look at that. This happens plenty of time, and it's important to look at the counter. So, Carly, when does it go wrong? Val? Everyone's silent.
I'm gonna say if your intuition is wrong, you read it wrong.
I was gonna say something ain't right.
I feel like it was other emotions other than intuition.
Yeah.
I don't think The intuition is wrong.
Because I feel like intuition's whole reason is to keep you safe and centered and all that. So if that intuition is wrong, perhaps it was perceived as something else.
Carly, do you feel the same?
I 100% feel the same. I don't think the intuition, personally, to each their own, could ever be wrong. I've never experienced one in myself, and I have intuitional feelings. I can't tell you how many times per day. And I have never once experienced one that was wrong. But as
Now,
Val started to say, oh, go ahead, Val.
I'm not saying that it couldn't be,
Yeah.
but I feel like intuition is there, that gut feeling's there for the good. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's there to prevent you from doing something wrong, not make
Right,
you do something wrong. If you did
right.
something wrong, chances are, like that was saying, you perceived it wrong. You listened to your heart. You listened to your sexual feelings. That's something we didn't touch on, but we have our brain and our gut, right? But what is in between that? Our heart and then our sexual things down there that interfere with how we make decisions. And just had to bring that up for that. But yeah, that's my standpoint.
I think we are wired to remember the negative things as well, because I think we definitely are. Oh, of course it's an invite, Jason. I mean, you got 3 women. Come on. I mean, I'm sure you can cope with this. We're wired to remember the positive of affirming instances than we, people as a whole, are the negative. How many instances are instances of self-fulfilling prophecy? That is a good point. And here comes the lovely Jason now. And I'm so looking forward to seeing him. I feel like I need to do a trumpet and a fanfare because it's been so long.
I know he's looking forward to coming on here.
He's a brave man. He's coming on with 3 women, but it's been so long since we've seen Jason. Let's bring him on, the lovely Jason. Hello, gorgeous.
Hello.
Hair, I'm impressed.
Yeah, no pomade today.
How did the move go? Everything good?
So far so good. I've just been getting settled in. It is a little bit of a challenge at times at the end of the workday to dig back into the boxes and start sorting through things and finding a spot for stuff. But I do have some friends coming out next weekend, so little impetus to get a fire lit under my 4th point of contact to get at least some things done. And then my 63 Beetle just got delivered this morning. So I spent the last 2 nights not sleeping because I've had that car for 20 years and is very much a member of the family. My kids have grown up around it since they were a newborn and a toddler. So yeah, it was very much akin to how I felt with the first time my kids were flying out without anyone flying with them or without the various chaperone programs.
So what we all want to know now, Jason, is we have you all to ourselves and you're surrounded by such, fine women, is tell us about these
negative time. I gotta
No.
Tell us about these experiences, the negative gut instinct.
Yeah.
Well, with it being wrong, I think. Yeah. Well, I'll use myself for as an example, just utilizing Herbie coming out, getting shipped out and dropped off today. You have a fixture or something that's been a fixture of your life for so long and has so much importance around it, whether it's a person or a vehicle or what have you. You have that anxiety creep up, and it's all of the just. I know something's going to happen. I know there's going to be a problem with the trailer. I know that it's not an enclosed trailer. Great. Now somebody's going to break into the car, take all of the parts that I have in there. There's a lot of time and money and effort in that. There's something that's going to happen. I don't know what it is, but I can feel it in my bones. And then shows up at 8:15 in the morning, and it's all in one piece, and everything's as it should be, right there on the curb in front of my house, and the truck driver just waiting for me to come out, and everything was fine. I feel that there are instances where intuitions, and that's probably where you have to really filter through things. I think that there's a lot of instances, though, where we have what we can consider people, right? And I'm going to speak obviously from, either a male perspective or as best as I can objectively from a human condition perspective. All right. Because we're all humans, no matter what's betwixt your nethers. At the end of the day, we're all humans, and there are certain basic things there. But we go through a lot in life. And there's a lot with intuition that comes from experiences. You see it with doctors, you see it with nurses in the OR room or around patients. We've seen these things, these things. There's that gut feeling, something is off. You see it on the battlefield. I've walked into an ambush just like this before. I know there's something going on. All of the conditions, all of those things, your brain stores, right? And you may not really consciously know that it is. It could just be something that your brain taps into because you have this storehouse of knowledge. And so it starts tapping into it. So that's where a lot of intuition, I believe, comes from. You take the factors in the world, you take all of the data and the inputs, squirrel that away in the back of your brain, just making observations on a daily basis. And your brain starts stitching the information together in a logical kind of fashion. And so you can actually become very predictive of things, especially when you have the deeper your knowledge base is of a subject, your deeper your exposure is to a subject, you become more intuitive. Your brain lightning fast puts everything together. Now then, going into where I was talking about things being wrong, how much in our lives do we experience in terms of trauma creates a filter that all of that information has to go through before it gets to the point where we're actually processing something and developing an intuitive feeling. And so sometimes I kind of wonder where it's like, okay, my instincts or intuition have been off. How much of that has been filtered through my own negative personal experiences? And now you start thinking something's going on because you're putting A and B together, and your brain is getting, a different answer than it should because of traumatic experiences. And there actually is nothing going on. Or if you have entered into a positive relationship space, for instance, if we want to talk in relationships, right? You enter into finally a positive relationship, a healthy relationship. And
do they exist?
They do exist.
They do.
I've been in a couple, and the reason why they've not gone any further, I am man enough to say, has probably been me and where I was at.
But don't you think that it could be not necessarily your intuition being wrong, but your brain kind of interjecting things to kind of doubt?
Well, but that's the thing is so if you are going back to where I was going with the healthy relationship scenario, if you're in a healthy relationship and you have that, she's quiet today, obviously speaking from my perspective, right? She's quieter than she normally has been, or normally there would be a phone call before whatever. And the reality of the situation, okay, what your brain is you're taking this input of, well, every time I've run into this, I've had this happen. Every time there's been some sort of thing going on here with this. Now you're in a healthy situation, and it's just, yeah, I was a dumbass and I forgot to put my phone on the charger at work, and I couldn't, call to let you know when I was going to be home so you could get whatever in the oven, or so you could meet me wherever we were going to go, or something like that, right? Something that under normal circumstances is a perfectly normal occurrence. We sometimes we can't call. Sometimes we're going to be 5 or 10 minutes late and there's nothing we can do about it.
Right.
So
but I think that's not necessarily intuition. That's more your
but that's the thing,
past
though,
emotions coming up.
But remember how I said it goes through a filter?
Well, I know, but
You're having a response to something, and your brain is telling you something because of your set of data points.
Let me ask you a question, Jason, so we can separate this, and then the lovely ladies will answer that for you. Let's look at when you were on the battlefield, first of all. When you're on the battlefield, did you ever have a feeling, a gut instinct feeling that I should do this or I shouldn't do that? And it was so strong you couldn't ignore it.
No, I wasn't sitting there in firsthand firefights, thank God. I thank my lucky stars for that every day. But plenty of times on a convoy, plenty of times going and sitting out in some Afghan National Police headquarters, which places like that frequently got harassing fire and stuff, depending on the relationship with the locals and all of that stuff. But thankfully, I never found myself in an unfortunate situation where like something like that was going on. But your hackles get raised. You're like, this is different. This is odd. This isn't normal. This isn't what I'm used to.
So you can feel the energy change.
Yeah, but you have to, really, it is important. And I'm not even saying that, I'm 110% right in my views on this. There are always the outlying factors. Sure. There's always the outlying instances. I think it's important, though, that we have to do a lot of self-reflection when we start having feelings. And it's, why are my hackles raised? Is this because there's actually something going on? Or is it because I have walked into a situation that I am just unaccustomed to? Yeah. And there's a difference. I think a lot of the intuition kind of things and turning in terms of the ooh kind of bit, I think you see things more like that happen when it's some variety of a visionary kind of thing. Dreamscape type of things like that.
Would you say that you listen to your gut instinct? Yes or no?
I think it's a mix of both because I'm flawed and I'm human, and there are things that override it. There are instances where you want something so bad that you look at all of your brain in a lightning flash process is doing the myriad of calculations and processing of all of the events that have stacked up in the back of your head to give you this, but you want something so bad. You have a need internally for something so bad that you hang on to hope.
Is that kind of a screw the consequence type situation?
I think there's probably instances where it can be. There's always going to be a damn the torpedoes, full steam ahead.
Jason, you've dated some lovely ladies, I'm sure, but it's like, have you been aware of women's intuition when you've been with them?
Have I been aware of women's intuition when I have been with them?
Have they shared something with you? Have you seen it in flux or in flow?
I think the closest I've probably seen it to really, in an operational setting, would be my mother, who was a nurse for 13 years and constantly working, every different ward within a hospital, every different kind of things, from ER dealing with scrapes and cuts and stitches to the NICU to, everything. And there is a set of instincts that develop from experience. Mm-hmm. It develops because you have information that's pretty, I've seen, you see so many things going on with a patient, with whatever their illness is or their condition is, and you've seen it happen with, there are certain things that are kind of tend to be consistent.
Experience, yeah.
And when you see enough of that, you recognize things without even thinking about it, and it becomes like a gut instinct, So, I would sit there and I'd see my mom talk about like, I bet this is what's going on. I'll tell you what, that's exactly what's going on right there with whatever this issue is. And then friend, family member, whoever it was would come back, and they'd be like, see, I told you it was this kind of thing. That's probably the most ready example that I have of that.
Ladies, we think about what Jason's saying, Carly? What's your feel of what he's saying?
Well, my take into going back and with your intuition and whether it's wrong or not and your filter that you were talking about, I think that filter that you're talking about is complex post-traumatic stress disorder and anxiety. I don't think
Right.
it's your intuition telling you anything wrong. I think it's your trauma from other experiences making your brain try to override things. Or it might even be your gut, because sometimes it varies. It can come from our brain, it can come from our gut. And I think that once you go through such experiences that will give you CPTSD or even just PTSD or just anxiety, those things are going to be like that negative filter that you're going to feel that you might think is your intuition, but it's not. Those are underlying things, just like when your brain tells you, hey, go do this, and you know you shouldn't. Like those are signs. Those are, I think it's the filter of you've been in a lot of hurt relationships or hurt friendships or hurt scenarios in life, anything, car accidents, whatever, the trauma, the negative experiences override your intuition, and that's what you're actually feeling.
That's a good point. Very good point. Val, what's your take?
Well, I agree with Carly, but I think a lot of times we need to sit down and kind of decipher what is emotional, what is coming from what we've been through, what we carry over into, the present from the past, and what
Mhm.
our gut's actually telling us
Right.
without that past, creeping in, because it took me a long time to kind of separate the past from the relationship I'm in now,
Mhm.
to keep it from, certain words being said would trigger something.
Right.
Or, it's kind of like, I would be in relationships after an abusive relationship and they would raise their hand and I would flinch. So
Mhm.
you kind of have to, eventually you get to the point where you think, okay, I need to stop doing that. It's not happening now. It's a different situation. So you have to stop letting your past emotions cloud, what your body's telling you now.
I also think what I picked up for it. I mean, I've known Jason, but I don't know him obviously as intimately as some others might. But I've known Jason obviously for some time now. But I also think Jason's a very down to earth. I wouldn't know if he's in touch with his gut instinct, his inner emotions, his if you want to go the psychic empathic abilities. I've never really heard you ever talk about that. I've never heard you talk about the fact that you feel like you've got empathic psychic feelings or abilities or whatever. So sometimes people don't know, and they don't know about the gut instinct, or at least they've heard about it and they've talked about it, but they've never tapped into it.
Well, then, and that could be very well, the case. In my instance, I tend to be incredibly logic driven.
But you're so
I've
quiet
had
and you
to,
never say what's on your mind.
and I have had to make myself be logic driven.
Yeah.
Because that would be, that's how I got to the point where I would not overreact to things. That's not, to where it would prevent me from doing something that I needed to do or wanted to do, or from being overly impacted, by events within a relationship. Leaning into logic, it was kind of that coping and healing mechanism for me, because 1 + 1 does equal 2, and if you lay the facts and the data and the information out on the table in an objective way, you can usually find a solution to whatever it is. It's not perfect.
Don't you think emotions sometimes muddy that?
They absolutely can. They absolutely can. And I will never, ever, ever tell you or anyone else that emotions can't override that.
Yeah.
We're only human. We are flawed individuals. Nothing
Well, I
is
mean,
perfect
it would be
about any
great
of
if
it.
we could all separate logic from emotion, but
Well, and it would be, but and here's the other thing is to be able to get to that point where you can takes an incredible amount of self-discipline, and you have to work at it. It's
oh yeah,
like using a muscle. If you don't use it and you don't practice it, you will find yourself being less able to utilize that and have it be just almost like an autonomic function. And so it's probably been so long since I've done that to be able to deal with my own, emotional stuff through my ADHD and all of that, that there's a reasonable chance that maybe I am at this point, without some sort of focused exercise, deliberate, work on trying to become more, in touch with the intuition, if you will.
well,
I would be able
I would
to
assume
see
the
it.
ADHD has a big makes it a big problem deciphering what is true intuition and
That's going to impact everyone differently.
right.
And that's the thing with ADHD. It's not a clear, concise set of A plus B plus C plus D equals this, right? Everybody has a little bit different of a flavor going on. For me, the logic helps control it, right?
Okay.
That becomes a way I can stop the spiraling thoughts, or the ability to go down, or the instances of going down a rabbit hole with something,
Right.
because anxiety is a comorbidity with ADHD. There is information, studies, research, etc., out there that actually shows towards ADHD people being way more intuitive than the average John or Jane off the street because of how they process information. ADHD people tend to take in the whole world like you're drinking from a fire hose, and we may not catch all of it in that instance,
But
the
does it make
information is
it
getting
harder to
trapped back here.
decipher? But does it make it harder to decipher and divide?
I think that's going to be a situational dependent thing. I honestly think it's situationally dependent,
I think
because
it's very obvious that many of us don't actually listen and know ourselves so well. We are so tainted and also so polluted by our past painful experiences and trauma, and also social media and everything else in life. And one thing I would say,
Other people's input as well.
one thing I'd say about Jason is that, as I said, I've never got the energy from Jason that he is in touch with that side of himself, because he's very funny, he's very logical, he's very analytical, but the whole emotion.
Are you saying I'm a little bit funny? Is that what you're saying, Carly?
There's a little bit of intuitional touch there.
He's never argumentative. He's very demure.
But one thing I don't see is him actually saying he's in touch with his own stuff, his own feelings, and So I think, Jason, what we're trying to say there is, love. You might need to do a little bit of journeying into you, because when we've talked as well over time, it's like you've had so much go on and so much happen that it can cloud.
I can tell you this much. There are a lot of things that in regarding at least one topic you and I have discussed offline. There's a lot of things with that particular instance that are very much intentionally driven, and because a belief in something, because of the nature of a hopeless romantic, whatever you want to assign to it, there is a purposeful and intentional, now got to stay the course. And that goes back to what I was talking earlier with when you want something so bad, you will willingly overlook or set to the side for reassessment later, potential warning signs or things like that.
Are you still on that course?
But so anyways, one of my real concerns is
He's just gonna ignore you completely.
Maybe not. Like, you don't have
I had
to go
to do
into
that.
but I used
I
to
had to do that. It was just
Sorry,
that
it
was,
might cut
it was
out.
right
I'm
there.
sure he didn't hear you.
I had to give that response.
like,
No,
are you still on the same course, or have you changed direction?
I'm not
Denise?
quite sure how to accurately define that without
Denise,
devolving,
there
without divulging too much personal information. And trying to keep
Well,
a
it's
little bit of
us.
my
It's
private
not like
life private.
anybody's watching.
It's not
Right.
like it's just the scales. You can share your secrets with us.
Right. Yeah.
We're not
yeah.
gonna tell
I know
anybody.
how that works. I know how that works, Wendy. Yeah.
We're
no.
never gonna
My-
tell
my-
anybody.
My intuition tells me that no, that's not the thing to do.
And I will tell you, this is one time your intuition is spot on.
Oh, that
say
you
it.
guys will just tell everything and tell it to all kinds of people if I
That
said something?
more
Yes,
than
you're
likely,
absolutely
more
right.
than us, more people than just us will know.
I would say we're in very good hands, and with 3 women, like we've all got our own. We've all got our own. Been there, done it, ticked it off. But you couldn't go wrong when we wouldn't steer you wrong, because you would talk to us and we would go, our gut feelings would kick in and we'd be like, oh no, or you should be doing this, whatever. But the thing is, there is, as I said to you, knowing you as long as I do, I have never yet seen nor felt your energy in an emotional way. It's very much it's if it's there, it's underneath the surface, because it's
That's
not.
what I was trying to give him some credit on. I was trying to say I could sense a little bit of that by the way you talk.
tiny bit, like it's like hello, and I think either you just protected it so long, or
Well, and that's probably in certain regards, it's probably accurate. It goes back to protecting oneself. So you do various things. Some people just rely completely on instinct and intuition. Other people, and I would consider that a passive jamming or signaling system, to put it into my military parlance. Whereas mine would be active. Jamming system, if you will.
Pull it out of him. We have to, because the thing is, as I said to you, or rather I said to at the beginning of this afterglow, intuition, when you're on the good side of it, goes, do this, go there. And if it and it feels good and you feel confident and you're like, you feel like, and it turns out to be good. And you're saying, well, what happens if you do that and it turns out to be bad? Probably wasn't meant for you anyway. But having said that, if you got fear or trauma or past experiences, then that's your logical brain side going, last time you did this, what about that? I'm not going down that road. But if my question is, before we end tonight, is if I was to delve really deep inside you, really deep, like get the old drill and drill in there.
This is getting.
How protected is your emotional side?
How protected is my emotional side? It's fairly protected, and I can say that without any kind of concern of divulging too much about myself, and it's protected that way for a reason. I, especially when I was much younger, was someone who very, very much wore his feelings and his heart on his sleeve. Very much fueled by emotion and passion, especially when it came to topics like love, romance, etc. And I've had to learn that you keep getting yourself into these situations and you keep ignoring things, or you don't look out for your own best interests, which you have to do. It's okay to sometimes put them aside, but at the end of the day, you do have to look out for yourself. Ultimately, that I will keep it guarded and I'll keep it safe that way. Because that's the thing in terms of love. Relationships. I'm someone that when I do, open the floodgates, so to speak, you get all of me. Then you get all of the feeling and all of the emotion, and it pours out, right? And if something damages that, now you've just sat there pouring the entirety of yourself out to someone or a cause or whatever that should never have received it. And so you naturally learn ways to protect yourself from not doing that.
I'm sure there's a few ladies watching this that probably would want to actually have all of you and see all of you, because after all, when we get involved in a relationship, we do want that. We want to see the full Monty.
No, they'd quickly get fed up and over with it.
We want
I'm
to
not
see
a neat freak. I forget things. I get scatterbrained at times. I repeat myself a lot. They'd probably shoot me by the end of the week. So
I would suggest they come along with. I mean, I actually don't think your emotions are that locked under the surface, because I don't know about you ladies, but as he talks, I can already start to taste his energy. And it's like can you not taste that? Can you not, Val, you've got me what I mean. You can feel some of his energy.
Yeah.
And it's like that emotional energy.
Tarragon I'm picking up in there.
I'm not gonna say taste his energy, but I can.
Sorry, it's just an entertaining way to have it put.
Hint of what is it? Guacamole.
What would you put it, Val? What would you put it? Feel? Sense?
I think it's different in everyone that has had past trauma, and by trauma I mean just bad situations. The people who have never been in a bad situation, never been in a bad relationship, they're more wide open.
Yeah.
Those of us who have had bad or really bad relationships in the past tend to close everything off because of that fear.
Mm-hmm.
Because we fear so badly for it to happen again.
Well, and that's where I was bringing up in my comment about the self-fulfilling prophecies.
Right.
Where it's dangerous. You have to understand and really interpret and sit with what you're feeling, because you could lead yourself down the path of, and I've watched it happen in relationships where you get that whole, there has to be something, there has to be something, there has to be something. This guy's too nice. This person's too whatever.
Sure,
things are going
I've been there myself.
And so you start to just look for anything that verifies, and then it's like, ha! I was right.
See, that's self-sabotage.
Right, exactly.
You're bringing your past into your present.
Right.
So
and that's
you
that filter that
it takes years and years to separate that.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be done.
Auntie Val
takes. Huh?
I said Auntie Val won't steer you wrong, Jason. Carly,
got your back, bud.
What's your feeling? Would you pick up things like? What's your feeling? Do you get something from Jason?
This is going to be a new feature on this show every couple of weeks. We're going to what are we getting off of Jason? I'm just going to sit here completely deadpan.
Showing us this week, yeah.
And then what are we picking up off of Jason? It's hard to read. This deadpan not talking about.
You're not deadpan.
I know.
What do you reckon, Carly?
I can tell that he is very extremely guarded, and because of being so guarded, it might make him be closed off from his emotions, which will make him not want to open up to others. And I I think there might be more under that, but I think he's got a big shell and a big wall put up that he doesn't want to let anybody into.
See, I
When
can't
you-
get through. Jay, stand up and give us a twirl.
What?
yeah,
Wait,
Check.
what?
I can't, you know,
just like
I can't
you know,
connect.
You can't connect what?
I can't connect with their energy. Stand up, give us a twirl.
standing up now, Val.
Give us a twirl. I can connect.
Well, I was until now. There we go.
Jason has a very sensitive side to him that he
There
rarely
is.
lets out. Rarely lets out. You can see that.
See, don't it feel good to be judged? Just
Go on,
saying.
Val. Now you've seen him. Go
I've
for it.
seen him. Okay, I'm satisfied. Oh, wait. I was supposed to do that for you.
You came out of your
Sorry, that
shell.
was just
You
Things
selfish.
I do to entertain.
It was just
entertain my
selfish
friends.
of me. I apologize.
She
came out of
you
your
obviously
shell.
enjoyed that, Jason. And you know, as I said, we've had you all to ourselves tonight, and
We have.
it's the Wickeds always enjoy having male company to come and join
But
us and give us their point of view.
I will say we do understand the opposite sex, so we can give 3 different perspectives of
Yeah.
certain situations. Some we've already been through, some we haven't, but
And I do think you should
there's a-
start opening up that side to you that you.
I think that there should be it should be recognized though that there's a difference between being in touch with one's emotions and being in control of one's emotions.
absolutely.
Now, what may be perceived by others as being, walled off, closed off, not willing to open, etc., could just be being in control of one's emotions and one's faculties.
But some of us have never been in touch with that side to ourselves. Some of us have never touched the inner psyche, the gut feeling, whatever. We just don't. When we're not brought up in that environment, or when we haven't experienced it, or it's not talked about, and
Right.
so it becomes as an alien thing. You hear about everybody else feels it. I'm sure if I know Michael has a couple of situations that. I know if had he listened to his gut instinct, he probably would have gone down a completely different road. But
Yep.
I think we all do it. I hope tonight has been of help to everyone who's watched it, male, female. And Jason, it is always a pleasure to have you all to ourselves. I mean, no one else is watching. We've all got you to ourselves.
I thank you. I thank you for the twirl.
It's been a pleasure, has it not? He's a fine-looking man. So,
come off it.
See, that's the thing. There
You're
you go.
laying it on thick, Wendy.
But it's true. Like that what's that one say? You give someone a compliment and they go to self-defeating ways of, no, I'm not. No, I don't think so.
Just take the compliment.
I am just regular little old me. That's all I am.
I don't say things unless I mean them.
I'm not saying that anybody means them. Whether I concur with what they think or mean is an entirely different story.
You just gotta.
Well, you said
shut
laying
your
it
mouth,
on
take
thick,
the
so you were
compliment.
disagreeing. You were disagreeing.
I was razzing Wendy. Is what I was doing by saying that.
He likes to rouse me. He likes to rouse me. That's for sure. He's very different when he's on his own, but yeah, he does like to rouse me, and he's very good at it. Nice looking place.
I care.
Nice looking place there, Jace. Looking good.
Yeah, it's getting there.
Well, I just want to say, this time next week, we will be back with another Wicked Woman, and hopefully it will be the show that we keep talking about. And sadly, we've not been able to do it, but we really hope that Joe will be with us next week, and we will be doing the show. Val, tell us all about the goodies, and Carly can come in.
I know it's backwards on there, but there is
That's correct.
Is it?
Yep, you're
Okay.
good. You have your camera settings set correctly.
This is our Wicked Women coffee mugs. It's got our website and the YouTube channel on the back. So if anybody wants one, I have some. Just PM me if anybody wants one. And
The mugs and the key rings, right?
And I'm making keychains. I finally got my stuff in to make them. So I'll be making keychains with our Wicked Women.
We need to perhaps do the
We'll work on getting all of this linked and tagged in our description below for future reference, so that way people aren't like, "Where do I PM you, Wendy?" That'll be something I think we'll put down in our description.
Well,
here, so
most people on there know where I'm at, but it's Valerie Rastic on.
It's been a difficult month because I've been so busy, and literally I bought Val and I we bought wickedwomen.com, so we have got the web page. It will be going up, and there will be little bios and all the Wickeds, but also where you can buy it. And who wouldn't want to drink out of the Wicked mug? Who wouldn't want, Jason? If I don't see you drinking in one of those mugs on Scotty's shows, and this sooner or later, I'm going to be insulted.
Do you understand the sheer volume of coffee mugs that I have in my possession?
Throw one away and buy ours.
No, and that's after sorting through the irrelevant ones to keep the ones that have meaning. All right, I could probably pave at least my driveway, possibly half my street.
I'll have key rings. Y'all can get the key rings as well.
You said coffee mugs, but you didn't mention a tumbler. Do you have one too many tumblers?
Well, that's when I got to get to my box of tumblers.
And you know what? You can always wear us on your chest or something. A little square here with Wicked Women on. We don't have to. You don't have to be spread all over your chest, Jason. We can just be on.
I'll just hop on one of those websites, and I'll get a polo made with just the little logo. Looks like I work for a company,
Don't be lying. Just don't.
Listen,
you ain't gonna do it.
If Michael can go out and give it on our details to every single woman going on the planet, going, you need to watch this show. It's brilliant. You need to have it. And then and they have. He was on a plane apparently the other week, and he was sitting next to a woman, and she's saying to him, "What are you watching?" He goes, "I was watching a podcast in Wicked Women." And she was like, "What's that?" Next thing you know, all her details, and she's subscribed. That's what you should be doing, sending people our way.
I will tell you, I will have, as soon as I get the keychains made, I'll put it on my Facebook with the mugs so everybody can see.
We will get this all sorted. We are still trying so hard, to even get all of us together, because lately our lives have been so crazy and so busy, and also with health, it's just been crazy to get all three of us. Like Val was trying to get on last week, she couldn't even get on because of the distance from the connection. So that's why Michael was here. I just want to bring in a notice, because we always do. And did Scotty mention Wicked Women today on his show?
Yes, he did.
I don't have to beat him this week then. So he did mention it, did he?
Thank you, Scotty.
He typically mentions it every time.
He knows.
Really does.
He knows now. He knows.
He has had chunks of ass hung out too many times.
We have beaten him seriously. So this week coming up on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday is the velvet voice, the honey in your ear, Scotty Roberts, and the Intrepid Radio Show. And he has a voice that's like velvet, that's for sure. On Tuesday is myself and the lovely Scotty with Robertson, who I have not seen Jason on there for the last couple of weeks, just saying.
Well, if you guys weren't coming on at 4 p.m. Central Standard Time, I wouldn't be sitting in my office, and I could actually watch and listen to 85% of the topics you end up discussing.
Well, some of us are actually like now on midnight over here, so that's why the thing. But Scotty will be on. We'll be back Tuesday with Robertson. Val, tell us about what's going on your side of things.
I will be back in July. My show on Saturday nights at 7. We'll be back in July. Got several guests. Daniel Benoit is one. About talking about Bigfoot and different paranormal things. So starting the first Saturday in July, I'm not sure what day it is, but first Saturday in July, I'll be back.
And it's been a while since you've been, you have been gone, and we will look forward to seeing you there. And any news on KB?
He will be back on 9 o'clock whenever he gets a wild hair.
We miss you, KB. And if you're watching this, it'd be good to see you back. Even if you came on perhaps every other day or Monday and Fridays or something like that, that would be really, really good. And yes, we have had so many requests about doing the late night Wicked Women and even the S&M edition. Obviously, Val, they're trying to tell us something. Carly,
damn,
it's been fine having us three ladies here this week. It's been a good topic. How are you feeling about the week ahead? Anything planned?
Oh boy, to be honest, Wendy, for once I don't have anything planned majorly. Well, I do have a doctor's appointment. Lo and behold, there's at least one of those a week or every other week.
Yeah.
And I think I'm gonna finally actually go see my family, see my parents and my brother, and celebrate Roger's birthday from back in April, and do something after my doctor's appointment with them. Otherwise, keeping cool and living in the pool.
That's a good sign. Keeping it cool and living in the pool. Jason, I will look forward to seeing you on Scotty's show where I watch it on a later time. And we must have a catch up again. It's really good to see you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Well, thanks for having me on and listen to me blather on my overly logical senses. My horrible, incredibly wrong man perspective.
But see, the first step is admitting it.
Yeah,
that was sarcasm, Val. I will never admit that it's wrong.
I totally missed it.
She did. We actually did mention you the other day in a conversation. We actually said,
"Oh God,
Jason's been on. Really, what's going on? Have we upset him?" And
no, I've just been.
I thought for sure I had turned you against watching us.
No.
And then I thought,
I have been so
surely
busy.
It wasn't me.
I've been so busy with work and then trying to force myself to actually get things done around the house here, that it ends up just being one of those things where that particular portion of the day kind of slides off the cracker, if you will. So it's good nothing personal. Nothing personal.
Put that in your calendar, people. Every Sunday, 4 p.m. Central Standard Time. I don't know all the other time zones, but be here.
Yeah.
Well, we are glad you come, Jason.
And I have to say that
I'm glad that you're glad.
One of the reasons I don't put the promos out in the week is because if I put it out in the week, people forget. So that's why it goes out on the Saturday or Sunday now. So that's why they're out then. And we're talking about doing a little mini teasers maybe during the week or something, so it's coming. But like as Scotty says, do you have to need a big sign up to someone to say it's on, watch it? So the fact that you've been here with tonight and three fine ladies, thank you for joining us. See you soon, sweetheart. Take care.
Thank you.
Ladies, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you guys tonight. And we look fabulous. And Val and I are in our red. And Carly, you look amazing with that background.
Well, thank you very much.
With your little crown.
such a little pretty such a pretty little background as well. I hope you'll be here next week, as the lovely Val will, and myself. Kind of hoping we're going to have the show that we've been waiting to do for a while, but it's been difficult. So stay with us, folks. In the meantime, watch Scotty Robertson on Tuesday. Wicked Women will be back this 10 p.m. Let me get this right. 10 p.m. London, 3 p.m. Mountain, 4 p.m. Eastern, and 5 Central.
Central is 4. We are 5.
Where's
You're
Michael?
close. You're close.
Where's Michael?
Time zones, people. It's
And
a lot of time zones.
Myths, Legends, and the Paranormal will be back July.
Yep, and we need to know when in July. Are we talking beginning or just
Well, it'll be the first Saturday.
first
It's
Saturday?
start back the first Saturday in July.
I think as Wickeds, we should actually just like Carly come on to Val's show, even if it's just for a cameo, going,
Sure.
we're here.
Absolutely, anytime.
Jason, I'm sure will come on, like, he'll be watching it, and because we always enjoy Jason and Val.
never watches my show. It's on Facebook Live, so
He has to come on there, and I'm sure he's listening, and if we bollock him enough, he'll come on.
see most of the shows are on YouTube. Mine is not. Mine is just Facebook Live.
Well, you know what? You're always welcome to use the Wicked platform and do your show on here, right?
I know, but it's just easier for everybody that watches my show already to just tune in on Facebook. I may eventually branch out on YouTube. But
Technology, like seriously, how am I going to get are you on here? I keep saying to KB if you want to use this to do it, but he's saying no. But in the meantime, guys, I love you. Thank you so much for being part of the show.
I love you too.
I will see. Oh, look, she's doing the heart. How are you doing it?
I don't know. Can you do it?
It's gotta be just right. Oh wait, I don't know.
My heart is broken, so it's not going to work.
Mine's not doing it.
My heart is broken. In the meantime, guys, take care of yourselves and each other, and we will see you next week when everybody, and I mean everybody, needs a bit of Wicked.
That's
See you
right.
soon, guys. Bye.